Alright, so how's it going everyone? So I just wanted to make a quick video, should be very quick, I don't know how long, but just regarding obviously the whole situation right now with Ancelotti, then obviously with the Bayern board and so on, and quite frankly I just thought I should probably make a video regarding that. Should have probably made a video regarding that probably a bit ago, but I thought, you know what, it's probably a good time to make it now, and especially after obviously what happened today against PSG. And quite frankly, let me start with Ancelotti, because I think Ancelotti right now is probably the big question mark. Because the board, you're either with the board or you're against the board. And I think many people right now, I think the way it seems to me is that a lot of people from Germany, like if you, for example, ask my uncle as well, they are for the board, as in, you know, they think that the board is doing a great job. Then you have all people, and I'm not saying all the foreigners, because technically I am a foreigner right now as well. But that's just a trend that I see, where generally you have obviously people from outside Germany think that, you know, the board and whatnot, they are doing a massive mistake right now. And I just thought, let me just say why both sides are right and both sides are wrong. Let's start with why the board is doing a good job. Let's take us back, say, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. We were in the banter era. Let's face it, we were in the banter era, and look where we are right now. Through not even through a lot of money, but just through smart money. You know, investing the money nicely, investing money into right areas, investing the money into young prospects, getting the young players in, helping the team improve. All that is mainly thanks to the board. All what we see today is essentially mainly thanks to the board. And honestly, the fact that we are actually still at the level. That might be arguable to some. But the fact that we've not really regressed, I mean, we've not, some may say we haven't really progressed, but I would say we haven't really regressed. And I think that's a big compliment to the board and decisions that they've made in terms of players, in terms of coaches, in terms of just the whole thing. Now let me just point out why the people who say that the board is at fault are also wrong. The board are known, and when I say the board, I mainly mean all the Hooners right now. Whereas Carlo Ancelotti, he doesn't mind spending money. Ole Hoeneß, he literally came out a few days ago, I think actually, and said, we will not spend more than 100 players on a player. We can do it, but we won't do it. It's not ethically correct. That's Ole Hoeneß stands on it. Carlo Ancelotti recently, a few years ago, came out and said, yes, we've got the money for a 100 million transfer, and if we have to use it, we'll use it. So you can just see the two clashing personalities. A lot of people always say that Ole Hoeneß, he only cares about the Bundesliga, whereas Carlo Ancelotti wants to challenge, compete for the Champions League. You could say that that's the case. You could probably say that. I mean, like, I don't think both of them are clashing. I don't think, like, both of them are really, what's what I'm looking for? Both of them are really against each other. Both just have different ideas, and I think that's pretty normal in football. I mean, Ole Hoeneß, he is pretty much known to the old ways of football. So he knows what football used to be, transfers used to be. Whereas Carlo Ancelotti, he seems to be someone that wants to essentially, perhaps not play along, but not really be outside the modern ways of football. So I think that's like the big clash between them two. Not saying that obviously that's a physical clash or anything, but just a clash in ideologies. That's why obviously, that's why the big reason why the board could be seen as culprits. They've not really spent that kind of money on players, even when we needed it. There should have been a development stage. There should have been a new era being shifted in 3 years ago. That has not happened. So you could say, you know, the board, we should have gotten new players in, phased out the old, got new players in. You know, that didn't happen. Robin Ribery, still our two main wingers. Our replacement for them, Douglas Costa, he's gone. Then you have our midfield, Toni Kroos, gone. We got Alonso in. Ultimately, we got Thiago, and Thiago is doing well, obviously. But I'm just saying, there are failures of the board. You know, you look at Alam. Kimmich worked out much better than most people thought, including myself. But if Kimmich didn't do that well, we would have been left with a giant hole as a right back. So you have a lot of positions that, you know, we were supposed to improve upon, and we've not really done so, which is obviously a massive shame. So yeah, obviously, like I said, I don't think either side is honestly correct. I think that the board is wrong. I think that the board is not, you know, blame free. I also think that the board is perhaps nowadays looked at too harshly. I think people love criticizing the board too much. I think people also love hating the board or loving the board too much. I think there's not really a middle ground, and I think people need to find that to really, you know, establish what the board has done and what the board is trying to do. Maybe not successfully, but what they're trying to do. Now let's talk about Carlo Ancelotti. Oh boy. Oh boy. Where do I even start with Carlo Ancelotti? I mean, Carlo Ancelotti, you either like him or you don't, honestly. When he came in, I didn't really, you know, most of you guys already know that, considering most of you guys, some of you guys, a few of you guys were actually subscribed back then, and so you know my thoughts back then. But essentially, Carlo Ancelotti, I thought, yeah, he's going to do well. I thought, yeah, he's going to do well. Because with Pep Guardiola, we just had a manager who was so extreme, in a sense of that, you know, he liked playing different tactical setups, he liked messing around, and so on and so forth. So I thought maybe with someone like Carlo Ancelotti, someone where who isn't as much of a tinker, who isn't that much of, you know, just I want to change everything week by week. I don't want to play the same lineup for 99 games or something like that. Someone that doesn't really change the formation 10 times in a game. I thought someone like that could work at Bayern, like just as a good change from Pep Guardiola. You know, you had the extreme on one side, now you kind of got the extreme on the other side. Someone who doesn't change whatsoever. And honestly, you're just trying to see, you're just trying to hope. That was a police car, by the way. I mean, it's pretty late, so still, you're just trying to hope, honestly, that you can just get a middle ground. And obviously, the name's currently being thrown around. I mean, whether you're Carlo in, Carlo out, I think most people at this point are honestly Carlo out, even me, in all honesty. Although I don't think, like most people want him to be gone right now, I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, it's just a bit of a shame, because Carlo Ancelotti, don't get me wrong, Carlo Ancelotti as a person I like. But so far, at his tenure at Bayern, it's not worked out. And that's not just because of one result, or you know, or 1 week or 2 weeks or so. If last season we had a good spell. We had a good spell for about 4 or 5 games. And besides that, honestly, I can't remember a single game. You know, and for me, it's not always really about the result. It's also about how the team plays, and I don't think we've done that well. Just at all in Carlo Ancelotti's time so far. So just hoping that, you know, the next person that we get is perhaps a middle ground. Perhaps not somebody as crazy as Pep Guardiola, but then perhaps also not just as silent and just as one-minded as Carlo Ancelotti. I mean, people used to say that Pep Guardiola, you know, he has only one philosophy, which is passing. That may be true, but I'd rather prefer that than crossing, in all honesty. I'd rather prefer that than crossing, in all honesty. But yeah, like I said, Carlo Ancelotti, I don't think he's going to go anytime soon. I know people are expecting, oh yeah, we're going to sack him by winter, whatever, or we're going to sack him, you know, by December, by November, by October. I just don't see us doing that, in all honesty. Just from the class aspect, I don't think we're going to do that. Because I think we're much more of a classy team than that, much more of a classy management than that. And you may say that's wrong. We shouldn't be classy. This is a result-based football, and we should be much more harsher on him, for example. You can have your own minds on that. You can have your own thoughts on that. I mean, when do I think Carlo Ancelotti is going to go? I think unless he wins the Champions League. Like, honestly, unless he wins the Champions League. I don't think he's going to go this season, throughout the season. I do think, though, that if he doesn't improve, or if the results don't improve, not so much the result, but more so the playing style. Because usually, you know, you can always lose a game or two, but you need to play good. If you play good, I made that quote a few days ago, but stupid quote, I know, but winning is like living, and good football is like breathing. You need to breathe to live. If you don't breathe, you're not going to live for long, and that's basically the way I see it. So if we don't play good football, we're not going to win a lot. And especially for a club as Bayern, you'd expect us. I mean, Uli Hoeneß, let me just put this out there, right? I said before that I don't think Uli Hoeneß, he will be looking at the things and just be like, you know what, we don't need to spend that kind of money. Let me just point that out there right there. If we don't win the Bundesliga this season, which I still don't think is very likely that we won't win the Bundesliga this season, but if we don't win it, Uli Hoeneß is going to sack Carlo Ancelotti on the very first day. All that matters to Uli Hoeneß is the Bundesliga. That's all that matters to him. And if we don't win that, then Carlo Ancelotti will be gone. I'm just putting that out there right now. Champions League, that's a different matter. Because Champions League is a cup competition. The same thing as a DFB Pokal. They are cup competitions, so I don't see... unless obviously we lose against an opponent that we shouldn't be losing against. That's a different story. But I don't see Carlo Ancelotti leaving in the middle of the season. I don't see us doing that whatsoever. At the end of the season, unless he's won the Champions League, I think he's going to go. I think he's going to be gone. And that's just my honest thoughts on that. I wish Carlo Ancelotti was here, say 2014. But even then, I think we need to get more young players in right now, especially right now, because that's the thing. That's the issue. Robin and Ribery, we're still relying on them. They're still our first choice winger. At this point, they shouldn't be our first choice winger. It should be our second or even third choice wingers. And right now, they're still our first choice wingers. And I think that's the big issue. Yeah, you may say that, you know, that's not really a fault of Carlo Ancelotti and more so the management. Yes, they're partly to blame. I mean, under Pep Guardiola, I blame the management much more than I do now. Right now, honestly, I feel it's more Carlo Ancelotti, because even when he had an alternative, obviously Costa and Coman. I mean Costa. Let me just talk about Costa. Even when he had Costa last year, he didn't really play him. Yeah, you may say Costa didn't really do well, but still, he's still your, or he should be your first choice winger. So you should still play him as much as possible. And that same applies to Coman as well. I mean, Coman isn't obviously the first choice winger, but considering that he's young, he should play much more, and that was obviously not the case. So he's not really applying the tools that he has. And you may say that those tools aren't really that effective and whatnot, but he's still not really applying them. And that's the big issue. Whereas with Pep Guardiola, I felt like he didn't really get the tools that he wanted. I mean, he wanted Gundogan, he wanted Sané, he wanted Kevin De Bruyne, I mean, he wanted Neymar. But he didn't really get them. But he still made work with what he had. You know, he still... What I mean by that is obviously Costa, Coman. He integrated them into the team and he made them work despite the limitations. And I think that's the big issue. That Carlo isn't really making the team work with the players given, if that makes sense. That's just my thoughts though. That's just my thoughts on the whole Carlo Ancelotti issue, the whole board issue, the whole issue regarding Bayern right now. And I thought, you know, I was going to do a walk anyway, just because I like rain. I like rain. I'm one of the few people that actually enjoy the rain much more than the sun. So I thought, you know what, I've got a little phone tripod, so let me just record a video while I'm walking. Let me just record a video while I'm walking so I can get my thoughts out there while being out there. It is frustrating though. It is frustrating to see what is happening at Bayern right now. And I don't think I'm the only person, but football, honestly, I think I've said this already, but I repeat myself so many times, it doesn't matter at this point. Football is honestly just a little bit predictable at the moment. And obviously we just came from like the most unpredictable coach in the world. But football is just too predictable at the moment. I mean, today was a perfect example. Cross, 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 cross. I don't think we actually had a single attack besides... I mean, we got to the point where even Robin started crossing. And if Robin starts crossing, you know there's a big issue. So, there is a big issue. And the question is, what can we do to solve that big issue? And there are a few solutions. Put more pressure on Carlo Ancelotti. Maybe that will work. Maybe that will be like, okay, I mean, today, the lineup that he played, you could say, that was him reacting to the criticism that he got, him reacting to what has been happening lately, and him just trying to do something different. If it had worked, we all would have been praising him. Ultimately, it didn't work, so I can't really praise him for that. But he did try something different, so you can't really fault him for not trying something different, because he did. Well, I think with a little bit more pressure, I mean, Carlos Rummenigge today at the banquet said, he was essentially saying there's going to be some talks and whatnot, and and there will be some consequences, because we want to see the old Bayern, we want to see the Bayern that Europe and Germany are known for, and that's not happening right now. Let me just, damn it, come on. Anyway, so that's already, for me, that's already pressure from Carlo Ancelotti regarding Carlo Ancelotti and regarding the team. We'll see how that goes, obviously. Then you obviously have the issue. One second. You have the issue, honestly, regarding like I said, the first thing you could do is potentially change the way everything's been going, his own game plan, his own tactics and whatnot. That is obviously not working right now. The second thing he could do is obviously get a new manager, which I think is probably the most likeliest option. And the third thing you can do is get a new squad, which I think is probably the most unlikeliest option, because I don't think we're going to replace the squad right now. I just can't. Seriously. I just can't see us actually, replace majority of our squad. It's much cheaper and much more efficient to replace the coach, or to replace staff, than it is to replace a whole team or change a whole team. And I just don't think that that's really a viable option. Let me just put the tripod here. Yeah, I'm just kind of going all over the place, because I just came back home and I saw that the bin is still outside. So yeah, that's just my fault. I don't think we're gonna, some people say we should replace the whole team. I personally, I'm not one of the people. I think our squad in general is very, very good. I think our team in general is very, very good. And I just don't feel like we need a massive overhaul. We need an overhaul, don't get me wrong. We don't need a massive overhaul. I think perhaps get 2 wingers in. I mean, we'll see how Gnabry obviously does. We'll see how Sanchez obviously does. Obviously, we'll see how James will do in the remaining of the season. But I don't think, personally, I don't think, and that's just my opinion, you might totally disagree with me, but I don't think we need that much of an overhaul. You look at our defence. Let's start with our defence. You obviously have Boateng, Hummels, Süle, and then you have Javi. And I think that's a pretty good back four. That's a pretty good 4 central defenders, I think. You have one of the best. You have two of the best, honestly, two of the best, most established central defenders in Boateng and Hummels. Then you have a very young prospect in Süle, and you have somebody like Javi who can do a decent job in that position. Let me just put my shoes on. And then you look for a right back. I mean, right back is perhaps our one problem area. You have Kimmich, but then you have Rafinha, and Rafinha, he's obviously a hit and miss for people. Some people think that he's doing pretty well, others think he's not. Honestly, that honestly decides on what you think. Left back, you have Alaba, and then you have Bernat. I think that's pretty good. I mean, Alaba, obviously, he's been struggling a little bit, but I think overall that's pretty good of a. I think overall that's pretty good of a left back position. Right back, yeah, perhaps we could get another right back once Rafinha retires. But overall, I think that's a pretty good position. Positions, pretty good place there. And then obviously it depends how the coach wants to play. We have quite a lot of midfielders. I mean, this has always been a joke for us that we have so many midfielders.
and we always seem to want to buy more midfielders, which is kind of hilarious considering that's not really the area that we need, you know, new signings for. But obviously you have Thiago, you have, I mean, I'm just including the whole midfield right now. You have Thiago, you have Tolisso, you have Vidal, you have Rudy, who's obviously doing excellent right now. You have, who am I missing? Who am I missing? You have Thomas Muller, you have James, then you have obviously Sanchez on loan. So you have a lot of players, obviously, that are playing midfield. Let's use obviously wings. Wings and strike, I think those are the only positions that you really need a, you know, perhaps not an overhaul, but we need some improvements on a striker, perhaps a second striker, or, you know, somebody very young, somebody that perhaps can play a winger and a striker. We'll see how Gnabry does. Like I said, Gnabry is just, I don't know where to judge him right now. I've seen him play, obviously, but it's still very early on in the season to really say, oh yeah, you know, he should be, he should be at Bayern. You know, he's got a future here. I still think he's a very good player. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a very good player. I do think though that this season is going to be quite important for him, because this season he could probably establish himself as a winger and as a, you know, as a forward. So if he's both, then that's obviously excellent. Then you have obviously the wing position. On the wings, you have Robin Ribery, who honestly should be getting phased out, and you could say are slowly being phased out. Bit slower than most people thought, but they are slowly being phased out. And then you have obviously Coman, and that's it. You have Coman, and I mean you could say Muller and James as well, but I really count them more as midfielders than wingers, because they are more midfielders than wingers. And that's honestly it. You have 3 wingers. I mean, you have players that can play on the wing, not that well, but that can play on the wing. But that's about it. That's about it. So yeah, I do feel we need perhaps 1 or 2 more additions on the wing, at least 1 or 2 additions on the wing, depending. Like I said, maybe 2, or yeah, maybe 2. If you include Gnabry and perhaps 1 more of a player, and perhaps a player that can play as a striker, or that wants to sit on the bench and play as a striker. But that's just my overall thoughts. I know I kind of just deviated right now and started talking about obviously the squad, and if the squad is good enough, you know, what kind of change we need in the squad. But the main point that I wanted to talk about was obviously Ancelotti and the board, and whether, you know, but basically talking about both sides. Basically talking about, you know, the side that is obviously for Ancelotti, that, you know, think that he is not at fault and whatnot, and the side that is saying that he is at fault, the side that is saying that the board